Okay, Meta looking a bit like a rejection, right? 1 for 3. This could be a good look for that MA cross, right? So if you can now start to get that breakdown, you got a really good volume profile here. You'd like to see it obviously now cross, give you that confirmation, and then you can have an opportunity. Nvidia, right? One to watch versus one to trade. High volume doji, right? So high volume indecision for me is the worst decision. I'm expecting a fight here until proven otherwise. So I don't need to be trying to front run it too aggressively. Okay, SPY maybe starting to look like it's a bit of a rejection. Okay, there's Tesla. Sorry. How's the IV on Tesla here this morning? Okay, next week 63 spot 8, so that's not bad. Good volume pace as well, but need to see this break, close, and hold, right? And then what I don't like is that QQQ and SPY are giving us a little bit of a divergence, right? So SPY kind of looks like it wants to break down. QQQ kind of looks like it wants to break out. So I need these to sync up and start telling me a consistent narrative as well. If I'm going to be trusting this Tesla, might have to pass the burden of confirmation on to a slightly longer time frame while I wait for sort of those narratives to sync up. As for what contracts I'd be playing, probably be looking at like the 170 calls next week. So target would be 165. Now starting to pull back a little bit more than you'd like, right? Not going to be a strong enough looking candle as if it shapes up like this. Just give us a second or two. A better. Okay. So good candle. Let's make sure it doesn't break out before we jump in. So stop loss would have to be 160, 114. Okay, no trade. Whoa. So pass on the burden here of confirmation, right? Broke out before I could get a pullback into my entry zone. So no justifiable risk reward to take advantage of that play. So yeah, passing on the burden of confirmation here, guys. Derek, I saw you asked about sort of my MA settings and stuff like that. If you go into the Discord and you go to Michael's live charts, there should be a, yeah, it should have all my settings there, all my kind of like write-ups and stuff like that. So if you want to access that, that's where you can get it. Okay, SPY maybe looking a little bit like a rejection here now, right? Maybe just a little bit. QQQ as well, but not nearly on volume. Tesla fake out, right? It's a good thing to not chase here. Right, if we don't get that pullback into our risk reward zone, cannot chase. I don't care how much you think it's going to go up. This AMD is kind of interesting. See how this volume closes on this inside bar? Maybe a little bit too much, but it could be a nice little BB reversal play, right? Where it runs towards, say, that like 75 mark, you know, bottom band goes to top or middle band, then top band. So if you get a little inside bar fake out, pull back under low, right? Kind of buy on the fake out under, that would potentially be really interesting. It's a lot of volume. Stop loss need to be that 73.50 area, right? So it's pretty far away. So even if you're entering from here, right, you're risking 60 cents to make 70 cents, right? You're not getting that risk reward profile. Tesla looking like a rejection on the 5. So if our 3 for 3, right, strongest pre-market name, the name that was showing us the most sort of relative strength before market open, is rejecting, I am not super confident that we're going to get a very clean breakout, right? And that's a high volume rejection. The only reason I wouldn't be interested in playing this, right, it's a 3 for 3 backdrop. So I'm never going to try to fight the trend, right? Fight the reversal, try to sell into yesterday's volume, right? That's a really intimidating volume profile. And I don't have a very positive expectation of making money trying to short into that. Yeah, I'd say no real high conviction setups here yet, right? Still feeling like the narrative is a little bit indecisive. I don't feel very convinced by this price action yet. The volume standard that we were hoping for, right, hasn't really stepped back in yet. So For me, right, that's going to require just a little bit of patience, a little bit of caution, right, until we can actually get a bit more enthusiasm. Right, like that 935 volume is pathetic. Honestly, second volume bar of the day, and we can't even get up towards average. Like that's like lunchtime volume. That's ridiculous, right? So that doesn't feel like a very strong sign of strength here. Right? It doesn't really feel like a very decisive market. Even QQQ, right? That second volume profile of the day, not strong. I mean, that opening volume profile of the day, right? Really not strong. So it's almost impossible for me to argue that bulls are really in control, right? So now can I get a visual confirmation that bears have reclaimed control, right? Can I, start getting those MA crosses? Can I start seeing something along those lines, right? That would give me that confidence. But I would say I'm not going to be able to chase something higher here at the moment. It doesn't feel like we're getting the right look. Right? I can't shake that SPY volume, right? So here was yesterday's open, right? Okay, last like first 3 bars, right, were kind of well above average. Our 2 out of 3 bars here are not. So, I mean, if I'm a momentum trader, right, I'm a breakout trader, I cannot argue that this is momentum. Maybe you have to change your IBKR settings to have like weeklies, monthlies, shorter term expirations. If you click more, it should be able to show you more of them. Bit more volume here, right? But still not super enthusiastic. Got very little confidence that this volume pace is going to be bigger than what we saw yesterday. Right? And yesterday was already a decreasing volume bar. So, you know, if we're arguing, right, momentum is in the market. Well, for me, momentum is volume, right? It's number of participants. It's more people being interested. So if I can't, I mean, the way I describe it, right, is if I'm looking for a breakout or I'm looking for, I'm going to a party, right? I want to make sure they're turning up the volume as I get there. At least I wouldn't want to see them turning it down, right? I want to make sure that I'm actually going to be, you know, getting dressed up and, you know, going out there and putting all this work in. Actually have a fun time for a little bit. And if that volume is decreasing as I'm getting there, or, you know, isn't giving me a very strong volume profile on sort of like the daily context, I don't really have that conviction that I'm actually going to have an easy move. Let's watch this QQQ. This is definitely more impressive. Okay, right? So lack of daily volume maybe is what's leading to these fake outs, right? Or these levels not being able to sustain and hold. AMD might give us that cross here, right? This can be more interesting within that context. Not ready yet. It's a little bit of a low vol melt. I don't know how you feel, T-Chrome, but it feels trappy to me. Yeah, it might be. 410 on just like 410 shares traded. All right, so break, close, and hold on decreasing volume, right? Not confirmation. Can't chase. Feels going into FOMC, I struggled to believe. How is Powell not going to come out and just try to shit on this market? I wouldn't say this is euphoric price action. Feels, like I said, still feels really trappy. I mean, I'd love for it to be at 450 by the end of Feb. That'd be awesome. The AMD is giving me the best possible. Right? No confirmation here yet, right? No cross. So we gotta wait. So getting a little failed breakout, right? Haven't really invalidated this volume bar, right? That Tesla 935 highest volume bar of the day. That's a little bit intimidating here if you're a bull, right? Like this one's pretty good. I won't lie. That certainly makes things a lot easier. But now you're seeing fake outs kind of, across indexes. You're seeing a little bit of pressure. So I'm going to have, to a certain extent, maybe like some confirmation bias, right, on this candle. Where it's maybe that's sort of telling me the same story that the indexes are telling me. Right, or at least it's behaving the same way that the indexes are behaving. Like if it wants to keep making higher highs and then pulling back and closing under its previous high, feel like a great sign of strength, right? What's the time here? 9:55 almost. So see if this thing can close on an outlier increasing volume on the Q here. Right, Q stronger than SPY pre-market, so I'm more willing to focus on this than the other index peer. Yeah, could be front running that a little bit, but consumer sentiment, not a huge one. Decreasing volume, right? So no confirmation. Yeah, I'm pretty skeptical here at the moment, guys. I'm not very enthusiastic. I'm going to get a very clean look. Had like 3 or 4 attempts now to get confirmation on a few of these names, and each time it's been really disappointing, I would say, right? A disappointing reaction. Okay, here we got confirmation. Never pulled back in zone into our entry zone, right, on Tesla, and then it gives us pretty gosh darn aggressive rejection fake out candle. QQQ, right? Can't seem to break, close, and hold on increasing outlier volume. Right? Kind of top heavy wicks potentially as well, right? Again, just enough where I can be skeptical. AMD now pulling back, right? Not giving us that MA cross attempt. We want to see it, cross, breakout, increasing outlier volume, then pull back. Right, so we're getting a pullback into a trend, right, into our trend lines when we haven't gotten that indication of a trend reversal, right? So it's a mixed signal here. Right, we're getting the price action we'd want to see 10 minutes later. But we're not getting that price action that is the confirmation, at least. At least not in my eye. Fake out on Amazon. Right, higher high first and then selling off. It's not a good sign of strength from bulls, right?
कॉन्ट्रैक्ट पे शेयर्स थे कॉन्ट्रैक्ट पे टेस्ला में रहे जब मुझे कम कॉन्फिडेंस था मैं शेयर लेता मुझे लगता है ब्रेक आउट तो लेट सोया क्या आ गया था खतरनाक पास आउट ही हो गई थी कल तक ठीक नहीं लगी मैं कुछ कर नहीं रही मैंने कहा मैं ज्यादा नहीं करना चाहती मैं वीक नेगेटिव नहीं करना नहीं मेरे को Amazon में लेने का फुल मन था वो पुल बैक ही नहीं आया अच्छा तो Amazon नहीं ले सकता कॉल्स भी अरे मैं समझ होता है यार फिर तो मेरे को पोजीशन में दिए जूते आए यार उल्टा पुल्टा कर देगा कभी
सेल कर देता है ज़्यादा सेल होगा तो मेरे को साइन कर देना चाहिए जैसे मैंने 4 ऑप्शन खरीदे लेकिन गलती से 5 बेच दिए तो वो एक ऑप्शन के आने से शेयर साइन कर देते हैं और फिर उसका विंडो वाला कॉन्ट्रैक्ट अभी है तो नहीं है
What's your confirmation candle here, Jesus? Where's your confirmation? Right? Confirmation is break, close, and hold on increasing outlier volume and a strong candle, right? High volume indecision is the worst decision. So just because you're not getting an inside bar, right, doesn't mean you have a confirmation, right? Don't work backwards. Right? Don't find a risk reward zone and then try to find your setup, right? Setup, confirmation, execution, methodical, same thing every single time, right? Like, man, make yourself a checklist, right? Okay, on a breakout, I need to see XYZ. On a pullback, I need to see XYZ. And it's one step at a time, right? We can't be skipping steps and looking for our, pullback look when we don't have a confirmation, right? That's how we get chasey. So if we're impulsive when things are going good on the way up, right? We're going to be impulsive when things are going against us. We're going to get crushed. So don't compromise just because you see an inside bar, right? Never worth it. It's not even that's not enough volume, right? It's the candle shape here on your level breakout, right? Sounds good, Brad. Have yourself a great day, man. We'll see you on Monday. Right, so you got to make sure that when you're getting that, right, you're getting your level breakout, you're getting your confirmation, right? One of these 3 candles. Most bullish, second most bullish, normal bullish, right? Everything else in between, crap. Okay, I mean, consumer sentiment, fine. Okay, so maybe now getting a little bit of a reaction to the news. Possibly. Still not great volume here, right? Okay, we're going to get bigger, but we're going to be about this like 950 volume. The White House has said the Federal Reserve appears to be on the path of a soft landing. Yeah, potentially just behaving as kind of one of those low vol melt up days, right? Which I don't really have an edge executing, right? I don't have an edge trading that, right? If I'm a momentum trader, I gotta trade when I see momentum. I can't ignore the volume profile just because price action is moving and bumping, right?
क्रीम लगा ले
Getting there.
ये 300 करेगा 410
In Q, this is more impressive. Take a look at some QQQ here. Yeah, watching this. If we can get a nice close here. I don't know if I like the fake out too much.
ले रहा है तो हेडलाइन आ गई है हमारे हिसाब से तो सपोर्ट है तो लेगा क्यों 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 तो ले रहा है
So I'd be looking at would be looking at the Jan 30ths.
तो कहता है 18 से कम आ रहा है
पहले नहीं आया 2 हफ्ता फिर से छुट्टी से पता नहीं कॉल कर
Target 295, right? That's our next target, so we can't, right? Okay, fake out, can't chase this now,
देखो साहब बहुत छोटे करके
मेरे हिसाब से तो हेडलाइन है मैं तो नहीं कुछ
right? Need to see a pullback before it makes a higher high. I don't want to see a higher high and then pull back because this tells me that this is bearish resistance now, right? What I want is to have insurance for the breakout,
तो मेटल है
right? So by the time, say we pull back, you know, get an entry around this 294.14, for example, by the time we get this higher high, we can protect entry and lock in some profit. So if it does fake us out, right, we're not getting hurt. We're actually making money. So not the reaction you want to see, right? And because it faked out, right, if bulls were strong here after this candle, why did they then why were they not able to then sustain a higher high, right? So if that candle is actually telling me that there's strong bullish momentum, then the price action is kind of contradicting what that candle told me, right? If I immediately see a rejection and it pushes down, not telling me the same strength that that candle was showing, right, on that sort of quote unquote confirmation. So the narrative here, right, is no longer consistent. It's no longer, a clean story.
स्पाई ब्रेकआउट का है
So it becomes impossible for me to trust this breakout, right? Where again, I need to pass on the burden so I can get the exact look I'm looking for, right? I cannot compromise. I do not care that it's running now, right? Because it didn't follow my trading rules. So if it doesn't follow my trading rules, right, I have to let it go. Because if I chase this, right, if I took this trade and got rewarded for it, well, I'm getting rewarded for not following my rules. And my rules are in place, right? Because that's how I've defined my edge. That's how I've back tested. That's how I've stress tested. That's how I know what my win rate is. And if I now start making it up as I go, and I start chasing this, I start ignoring my rules, I go from trading with an edge to trading as a gambler, right? I'm trading because I want the outcome. I'm trading because I want X, Y, Z.
आंखें थोड़ी
If a trade is strong, right, it's going to give me multiple points of entry, and at some point, it's eventually going to give me my perfect A+ look. But I cannot compromise in between just because I think it's going to run up, right?
बारिश का मैच नहीं है
I have to think it's going to run up, and it has to follow my trading rules. Otherwise, I have zero expectation of making money. I don't know what my probability of being successful is.
कॉन्फिडेंट बंदा था
And so without that information, right, I'm just gambling. I'm just throwing my money, seeing what sticks. And maybe that works a couple times, But if you behave like that long term, you will have no sustainable success as a trader. And so we wait, right? Maybe we'll get a look here on the SPY, 5 min. Maybe we can get a 10 min confirmation close, right? That looks impressive. The point is that I cannot chase. I do not care that this is higher now, right? I honestly don't give a shit because it didn't follow my trading rules. So if it doesn't follow my trading rules, I have to let it go, right? What can then happen is if I constantly keep missing trades, it constantly keeps disappointing or you know, missing that sort of, if it's not following my trading rules, then in a month, right? When I go back and look through my trades and I evaluate my progress, I can notice the pattern because I'm being consistent in my application. But constantly see names running, right? I constantly see names going. Okay, then I can change my trading rules. I can change my technique to then look to take advantage of those moves. But I'm not making that up as I go, right? I can't do that. That for me is the least successful way to trade. Good, Dayon. Good. I'm glad to hear that. And guys, look, very honestly, right? I want to trade this just as much as you do. I want to rush into this just as much as you do. But I know if I do that, then I'm going to start compounding bad decisions. I'm going to start rushing into trades. I'm going to start forcing plays that aren't there. And that's only going to lead to one result, right? So target here, right? 407. Stop loss, low of confirmation candle, right? So right now we're looking to make 89 cents, right? And risking $1.74. Well, that's not realistic, right? That's not a good enough risk reward ratio. So we need to probably see it pull back right into this like 405.20 area before I have a positive expectation of making money on this trade, right? If my win rate is 75% and I'm targeting and I'm risking $1.75 to make 80 cents, I do not have a positive expectation of making money on this trade, right? So again, right, it can run and it's not following my rules, so I have to let it go because I do not have a positive expectation of making money on this play if I take it 1,000 times, right? If I take it 100 times. Yes, maybe I'll get rewarded, right? Maybe I'll make a little bit of money here today. But I'll actually end up costing myself more money in the future because I'm chasing something that, like, that's what really crushes me, right? So we have to make sure, right, it's following our rules. We cannot compromise on them. We can change them once we have evidence and the, data to back it up. But making it up as you go, changing it on the fly, right, doing whatever you think, it's only going to lead to one outcome in the long term. Good, T-Crone. I love to hear that, man. I love to hear that. And look, guys, right, rushing into not trading is the hardest thing for me too. All right, because I want this action just as much as you guys, right? It's better for my business when the room is bumping. But I have to also understand that if I disregard my rules, if I start trading undisciplined, if I start making it up as I go, it becomes a very slippery slope where I become a chaser, right? My objective is to find that one perfect setup a day where I have zero compromises. The second I have to start compromising, right? The second that this kind of shit happens, right? Where I get that little fake out higher and all of a sudden I'm down 15% just because I wanted to trade so badly, right? So I can't allow my brain to trick me into making a rush decision just because I want some action. Can't do it. I have to follow my rules exactly. I have to follow my trading plan exactly. And the more I follow it, the easier it becomes, right? And it sucks. Man, it sucks. Well, look, QQQ now back towards that price that we were talking about when it first gave us that breakout. Right? So, you know, as much as I want to chase, as much as I want the action, I have to only make sure I'm playing stuff when it follows my rules. So if I see that fake out, you know, and then breakdown, can't chase it. If it doesn't pull back into my risk reward zone, can't chase it. If I don't get a good enough confirmation candle on my breakout, can't chase it. If I don't have good enough spreads on the contracts, right? Can't chase it. If I don't know what my position sizing needs to be, right? Can't chase it. I need to answer all those questions so that I can reduce all the anxiety I feel when I'm trading, right? Good risk management is a proactive, not reactive decision. So my rules are designed, or they're put together in place, right? So that I'm protecting myself from myself, right? It's basically everything should be like an if-then statement, right? So if price fakes out, then, right, pass on the burden to a longer time frame for confirmation to see if you can get that, you know, look that you're looking for. Right? Maybe this 15-min candle will close strong, and then we can get a pullback right into our risk reward zone, right? Target a move towards 296, right? The play is still alive, right? The setup, the thesis, the idea is still in play. But what we got to do is make sure that when we do want to trade it, or we do want to go after it, it's doing exactly how we want it to behave, right? It's continuing to show us that strength. So just because we miss a setup, or we miss an entry, or we don't get the rules to satisfy us on the 5-min time frame, doesn't mean that we now stop looking at this or totally abandon this, right? It's okay, watch. Can I get that perfect look on the 15? Can I get that perfect look on the 10? Can I get that perfect look on the 30-min time frame? And when all those things sync up, that's when it becomes easier for me to be profitable. Like I said, I can't care that this is running and breaking out without following my rules. Number one thing, right? I can't cheat myself of the discipline that I'm trying to instill. And yeah, it's really frustrating. Because yeah, I mean, if we chase that QQQ at 188, you know, it got to 224, we definitely would have made some money, right? Absolutely would have made some money. But we take that trade and we do that 10 times, right? We do that 100 times. We're making money on maybe 3 or 4 of those, right? Maybe 5, right? Maybe 6. But the 3 that we lose, the 4 that we lose are going to be huge and catastrophic, and they're going to be 30%. And because we didn't follow our rules when we took the trade, we're not going to follow our rules to cut the trade, right? So that's why it's really important, right, that we are super disciplined and don't reward ourselves. The worst trade is a green outcome with a bad process, right? Where you ignore your rules, because then it makes it easier to ignore your rules in the future. So if I'm making it up as I go, if I'm compromising on the way up, I'm going to compromise on the way down, right? Because I'm not going to be willing to accept that play because I was certain it was going to run. I made an emotional decision versus a logical decision. And so my objective, right, is to basically structure all my decision making so that I'm not making emotional decisions, right? That all my decisions are essentially in control. And then once all those variables line up, right? Okay, if then, once that's all in place, then I have an expectation of being profitable. But everything else in between, right? It doesn't matter. It's just a line on the screen. And so until it behaves exactly the way I want, that's all it is, right? It's just a line on a screen. It's not though, Jesus, right? It's just I've decided that I'm willing to suffer to be green, to be entertained and be red, right? Philosophically, I've made that decision in life. And so once I've made that decision, it's ultimately not that difficult, not that amazing. It's not like some out of worldly thing. It's just I constantly practice it. I constantly force it. I constantly just, that's my number one priority, right? Follow my rules, follow my trading plan. Because at the very least, if my trading plan is wrong and I lose money, I can at least learn from that decision, right? I can learn from that trade. But if I'm rushing in, I'm jumping in, I'm going full YOLO, then if I lose money, the pattern of why I lost money was because I made an emotional decision. And that becomes really difficult to notice what else I could have improved, right? And so that stagnates my progress. That eliminates my opportunity to, have that future success because I'm too focused or too obsessed with needing it now. And I can't have that. That is unacceptable. So if I want to be a successful trader tomorrow, I want to be a successful trader next week, if I want to be a successful trader a month from now, that's not going to happen from just one trade, right? It's going to be the execution of hundreds of trades, of thousands of trades, of seeing hundreds of failed setups come together. And so I have to practice it when things are difficult because ultimately that's what's going to pay me out more, right, when things are good. And yeah, super frustrating, guys. I really want to trade. I really want action. I hate staring at the screen on my hands doing nothing. But that's why trading is so hard, right? Because it doesn't reward you doing a ton of things. It rewards you not compromising and just picking what your perfect setup is. Right? Compromises do not get rewarded in the markets. They just don't. So the first compromise we cannot make is one with ourselves.
At max, 1:1 profit layer, but probability lower. Can find a long-term source. So every day इतना sell लगा देंगे. लेकिन अगर मैं यहाँ pauses, मैं कितना hold करूँ? अगर 21 EM cross हो 21 नीचे तो at least 120
Hey, look, right? Didn't follow our rules, right? And now we're not getting that momentum, right? We're not getting that breakdown. Our rules are in place to tell us what strength looks like, right? So when we don't follow our rules, we're being told that we're not following strength, right? So feels good to see this sell off, right? Feels good to see it not continue climbing up forever. But that's the point, right? Our rules are there to identify what strength looks like, what we think strength looks like. And if we don't get that exact look, then how can we trust our thesis, right? So I'm happy to see these now well under what would have been the entry price. All right, that's great because it is a pseudo reward, right? That, hey, I avoided an obvious red trade just because I was willing to stomach a little bit of anxiety that was created by it feeling like it was going to run without me. And look, these are now $1.65, those contracts. So I feel vindicated, right? To a certain extent, right? I feel good that I followed my rules. Because I saved myself from a stressful trade, right? Stressful trades compound to bad mistakes, bad decisions. So all we can do, right, is control the variables that we can control, write them down, track them, learn from them, improve from them. And then if we constantly keep, missing trades, we constantly keep avoiding plays, yada, 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 then, we can adjust and adapt and make changes. But we can't make them on the fly, and especially not make them during market hours, because no matter what, I have never taken a trade thinking I'm going to lose on this trade, right? Every trade I take, I think I'm going to make money on. So if I then compromise my rules and think I'm going to make money on it regardless, then I have, zero expectation of actually being profitable long term. Like I said, maybe you'll get rewarded for a couple weeks. Maybe I'll have a month like that where you average down, and every time you average down, you make a shit ton of money. But it always catches up. Always, always, always. So I'd rather be bored and, protecting a decent week versus excited and red. Sorry. So with my confirmation, right, all I'm looking for is a breakout, close, and hold above my target, right? And my confirmation shows look like a most bullish candle, second most bullish candle, normal body bullish candle. So because I do all my analysis on the daily time frame, right, marking all my levels on the daily time frame, I'm then looking for just the first candle that can give me the reaction that I'm looking for, right? So the first candle that gives me a break, close, and hold on increasing outlier volume on the 5-min. Or if I don't get on the 5-min, then I'll wait for it on the 10-min. If I don't get it on the 10-min, right, I'll wait for it on the 15. And I'll keep just passing on the burden of confirmation on longer time frames. Outside of those, right, or outside of those sort of opportunities, right, then it's a little bit random of what time frame I'm looking at. I'm just trying to keep an eye on sort of what price action goes. But generally, the second I get an alert trigger, the first time frame I'm looking at is going to be the 5-min, and then the 10, and then the 15. And it's just first time frame that gives me confirmation is what I'm going to rely on. That makes sense? So with this AMD, right, kind of seems like we have a pretty clear rejection at this 75.50, which is why this hasn't been interesting yet, because stop loss would have to be just too far away within that context, right? Stop loss would be, say, low of confirmation candle, which is that 74.40, right? So all of a sudden you're risking, right, 75 cents to make 38 cents, right? So I don't have a positive expectation of making money on that trade. Right? Basically, my base assumption is that like the next trade is always a coin flip, right? I'm either going to be green on that trade or I'm not going to be green. If I, can smooth out that variance over a month or 2 months or 3 months, then yeah, okay, I know that my win rate on average is like 75%, right? Kind of in that range. So it's all about, can I justify or do I have a positive expectation of making money on this play today, right? Right now. How can I make that as justifiable as possible? And if I'm chasing, 60 cents, but I got to risk $1.50, I mean, no, right? Because I'm not then being able to justify flipping that coin, right? So if I were to, say heads or tails on every trade, right? Okay, 50-50 outcome. And that's not necessarily true, right? It's not going to be a 50-50 outcome every time, but just as a base assumption, right? How would I justify flipping that coin, right? I'd like to make $2 for every time I guess tails and lose $1 every time I guess heads, right? Or it's heads. And so that's what I'm looking for as my execution requirements, right? Once I get a good setup trigger, once I get a perfect look, I got to make sure it pulls back into a price zone where I have a positive expectation of making money. And if it doesn't give me that, again, no worries, right? Again, it's going to run without following my rules. It's going to run without following my rules. Not going to have a trade every single day. I'm not going to have a trade in every single market condition. Not the end of the world, right? What will be more frustrating is if I, know I ignore my rules and then it goes against me. And then I'm like, oh, what the hell? Like, I can't say that like, woe is me, right? I have to protect myself from myself. So if I don't want to make any dumb decisions, well, I can't make any dumb decisions, right? I have to focus on keeping myself disciplined, focus on keeping myself present. Focus on, right, the process of my trade. What are all my rules? What are all my things? And just constantly be working through them, right? Constantly cycling through, constantly reinforcing those sort of techniques so that I'm not rushing in, right? I need to be as deliberate as possible in my decision making, so at the very least I can learn from it. So I know I'm repeating myself here a little bit now at this point. But yeah, just very, very important, right? And I'm repeating myself because it's helping me too, right? Like I'm sitting on my right hand, so I can't touch my mouse because I want to hit submit, right? So it's, you know, I got to make sure that I'm also keeping myself accountable, right? Forcing myself to not make any dumb decisions, to not rush into something, to not ignore my rules. So the more I repeat it, right, it's because the more I want to do something dumb too. So I can't allow myself to do that. So that's what it is, right? I have to study, I have to improve, I have to track my techniques, and then I can actually achieve the objectives I want. Yeah, it sucks, right? And we have to also contextualize this, right? This morning, the pre-market analysis that we pretty much were told was that we don't have very trending market conditions, or not a very high probability of trending market conditions, right? We had an attempt to try to, you know, get a trend breakout, but we didn't see that on volume. So the stuff that we wanted to see to create a trending price action didn't really happen, right? So in reality, right, our technical analysis was actually correct, right? So how we saw the market was correct, right? We actually made a positive decision. Now, we didn't have a profitable trade off of that correct analysis. We're not always going to have one. So you can't expect that, right? Not always going to catch every single move in the market, right? So we can't expect that. So it's okay, right? Was my process good on this play? Yes. Did I follow my trading plan? Yes. If I can answer that question 19 out of 20 trading days a month, I will be very successful as a trader. But if I'm, you know, allowing myself to compromise on that just because I want a little bit of action on a Friday and I want to have a beer that's going to taste good because I made a little bit of P&L, then I'm making a bad decision, right? I'm not following my trading plan. I don't have a positive expectation of being profitable. So it sucks. It's boring. You know, I wish there was more I could do, but I made my plan. I'm following my plan. That's my number one objective. Hard to do sometimes, but I feel like I've just saved myself money today instead of actually had opportunities where I would have made money. Now, the other element, right, if something followed my rules and then went, yeah, okay, then I can be hard on myself, right? I got to study, okay, why did I ignore my trading rules, right, on the other side, right? If my idea was strong, you know, my thesis was correct, why did I not have the courage to support my thesis? Right, so there's the flip side, but I don't feel like I've really seen an example of that here yet today. We'd want to see a reversal candle, right? So just because you have a triple top pattern or a possible triple top pattern, right? You want an indication that bears have reclaimed control. So what would be confirmation of that, right? Most bearish, second most bearish, normal body bearish on increasing outlier volume. So that it's always the same, right? It's always the same confirmation. No matter what, right? So if bears are actually going to be strong, I should see that as a strong candle and strong volume. That never changes, right? My confirmation always looks the same, no matter what direction I'm doing, no matter what I'm trying to trade, right? I'm looking, essentially, if I'm playing a breakout, right, then I'm looking for a strong bullish reaction. If I'm playing a rejection, right, I'm looking for a strong bearish reaction. Right? And then that strength always looks like a strong candle with strong volume. If I don't get that combo, then I'm being basically told that my thesis or my technical analysis was not correct. Yeah, no worries. So let's deal with that Tesla question here quickly. So not bad on this Tesla, right? That's a better pullback. What I don't like about this though, right, is it makes that higher high first and then pulls back into a zone where you'd get that risk reward, right? So here you're being told that you're already seeing resistance from bears instead of finding support from bulls to push it higher. That would be why I'm not interested in this. As for the MA strategy, so basically what I'm trying to do is I want to have more flexibility when conditions are kind of like today, right? Where we have this, or what was like pre-market today, right? What I want is like weak trending price action, right? So say something like the SPY, right? Strong candle, weak volume, gap down, where you could then play that reversal essentially, right? Or that sort of rejection of that weak thesis and then continuation downward. So it's a strategy I want to play on like 1 for 3 days, 2 for 3 days, where we don't get a breakout, right? Where it kind of goes against sort of the recent, or, you know, kind of goes against the previous candle. What I'm looking for, right, is then just a reversal of that trend. So I'm being told that that trending price action isn't particularly strong. And so if I can reverse that trend, right, then I have an opportunity for the opposite side to be able to step in and control price action relatively easily. The way I want to visualize that trend reversing, right, is just an MA cross. Short term 9/20, right? MA cross that tells me, hey, short term we've got a little bit of more control from the opposite side than we expected. Once I have that combo, right, I'm looking for a break, close, and hold, right, for the line to cross, and then for basically to get the same confirmation candle that we always look for, right? Give me that high volume breakout, right, and then give me a pullback into the trend line where I can get an entry. And so that's all it is. It's just a hopefully if we get like reversals in weak markets, we can take advantage of those moves, because what we've seen is weak markets, big gap downs or big gap ups tend to not sustain. So if we want to basically reverse those moves, right, I want to be able to visualize that short-term trend reversal. So that's kind of how I want to do it. Now in reality, this still needs to be stress tested a little bit, right? So there's a few little kinks that need to be worked out here to a certain extent, but that's the general thesis. No, MA line, right? So this will be similar to the Bollinger Bands where we're targeting like previous day lows and highs. So basically I want to see MA cross, right? Like here, you got MA cross, right? And then I'm looking for a break, close, and hold on increasing outlier volume. Okay, pretend this candle was like 3 times the volume. That would be your confirmation. Then you look to enter on a pullback or touch of the bottom line, and that's your trigger. So you want to see cross, right? The MA cross is your setup trigger, right? Your confirmation is a break, close, and hold under your MA cross on volume, right? And then your execution requirements, all that kind of stuff is the same. You want to see it to pull back, right, into the trend line and basically make sure that that trend line is now acting as support instead of, right, supporting your thesis instead of being resistance. So it's just, the same concept we have, right, with all of our sort of our trades. We basically want to see weak bulls or weak bears try to reclaim control and fail in their attempt. So that's kind of what it is, right? Once you get that confirmation, you then want to see, basically weak bulls or weak bears fail in reclaiming control. Because then you kind of have that easy follow through upcoming. So that's why the pullback is there. Right, wait for that pullback to your entry zone. right? Then you can put your stop loss at your confirmation candle, right? And that should hopefully justify the risk reward ratio you want for the trade. And then, hopefully, yeah, telling you that, the line is acting now as support instead of acting as resistance. Right? In reality, right, it doesn't need to touch. It just needs to pull back into a zone where you're getting the risk reward required, right? So the confirmation and execution of this trade is exactly the same like everything else we do, right? It's same volume, looking for the same execution requirements, looking for the same 2-to-1 risk reward, all that kind of stuff. The only difference is the setup trigger. Okay, I mean, I feel pretty vindicated about this QQQ. Exactly, yeah. We're just being flexible for our setup trigger. That's it, right? Nothing else is changing. Strength should always look the same. So that's all it is, right? If I notice a pattern, right, I'm willing to try to take advantage of that pattern. But the way I qualify that strength, right, is with my confirmation, with candlesticks and volume. So maybe it could be something like, every Friday you see that it runs, SPY runs or something like that. Okay, well, that's your setup trigger. It's a Friday. That's your setup trigger. So what would the run look like on a Friday, right? Maybe the first candle could show us that strength, right? So if your thesis is that Fridays are green, and I'm just doing this to really, really be basic, not an idea that I'm willing to trade. But if my basic thesis is that Fridays are green, okay, that's my setup. It's now Friday, market open. That's my setup trigger. What would be my confirmation of that? Big volume, big candle to start the day off. So notice a pattern, right? What's the pattern that I can see? What's the pattern that I've identified in price action? And then how can I qualify that pattern to actually be showing me strength? So it could be a MACD cross, could be a Bollinger Band breakout, could be a RSI cross, it could be a tweet from your favorite guy on Twitter that does alerts. Those are all just setups, right? What you want to do is quantify the quality or the strength of that setup. And then once you see that strength after your pattern trigger, after your reason to look for something, right? It can be, that's kind of what you're looking for, right? The objective obviously isn't to then work backwards. It's a little bit of a fine line. As much as I say, right, your setup trigger can be anything, but you want it to be something that you've kind of identified and are aware of, right? You've kind of back tested it, you've sanity checked it, you've done those sort of things. So it's not just like, oh, I see 3 candles that look like the same 3 candles yesterday, so I should get a rip. I'm not going to be interested in Tesla to the upside here now, Jesus, right? Because it's giving me an opposite story to what the market is telling me. Right? So market's now selling off. I'm not going to fight Tesla as an outlier, right? That for me is too intimidating. Right? Always, I need things to be telling me the same story, right? If I'm looking for consistent price action, easy follow through, it should be everything telling me the same stuff. And then I'm just filtering and choosing whichever one is best. So yes, right? Tesla was showing me relative strength. Pre-market continuing to show relative strength. The only 3 for 3 we looked at here this morning. But relative strength when the market is flushing could just mean that it gets stuck, right? It's hard for me to expect a big breakout or big follow through if the market's not cooperating. Yeah, because if you're not thinking about your risk reward, right, you might take a perfect setup, but the one that you lose on, you're just gonna be running in sand. Like you're just not gonna see any progress, right? the idea of having a positive expectation of making money on a trade is just as important as your thesis. So if I take this trade 1,000 times, if I take this trade 10,000 times, 100 times, 50 times, will I be profitable, right? Based on my win rate. That's why backtesting is so important, right? Because then you know what risk reward you need to be targeting to justify your trade, right? Maybe you have something that, you have a pattern that comes together once a month, but it has like a 95% win rate. Well, then you don't need, right, a 2-to-1 risk reward on that setup, right? You'll make more money if you get it, but the objective is to be able to work backwards, right? Okay, here's what my idea is. Here's what my thesis is. Here's the evidence of how successful it is. And then now how can I basically juice the odds in my favor? So yeah, have a positive expectation of making money. And the reality is, right, your risk reward becomes kind of like exponential, where the more patient you're willing to be with your entry, the more you'll win when you're green, right? The more you'll win when you're correct, and the less you'll lose when you're wrong. So that ultimately just ends up being a win-win, where, your patience can almost like bail you out of a bad thesis. So this is why we don't fight the market, right? Like if Tesla is now going to start breaking down, you can see it a bit more on the 5-min, right? We just don't want to fight the market. We don't want to be putting ourselves in situations where we're trying to contradict the general trend, because then we're swimming upstream kind of thing, right? We have to work a lot harder to get the same outcome that we're hoping for. It's not fun, right? On Fridays, I want to be feet up, drinking margaritas, right? Not being in a stressed out trade, pulling my hair out, just counting down until I get stopped out, right? That's not what I want to be doing. Okay, so we have your confirmation, right? We've gotten that cross on the SPY. So maybe could we get a pullback right into our MA zone, right? That would essentially be your play, right? We identify choppy conditions. We're seeing pretty choppy conditions, I would say. Maybe not even getting a little bit of a rejection. So yeah, frustrating to not have gotten any action, but I'm happy to have not wasted any money, right? The market doesn't care that you're sitting and watching it. Doesn't give a shit. So we don't get rewarded for just sitting and watching, right? We get rewarded for our decisions, not our time. We have to really think about that, right? The market we don't clock in and clock out and get an hourly wage. Doesn't work like that, right? We get paid for our decisions, not our time. So we have to systemize our decision-making process to have that consistency. Well, guys, we've all had undisciplined trades, right? I mean, look, watching back that Amazon from this week, I felt like there was a lot of undisciplined mistakes there, right? And little ones all add up to the point where you stop seeing things as clearly, right? A little bit of too much emotional attachment, a little bit too much of a FOMO entry, a little bit of too greedy of a take profit or whatever it is, right? That all compounds and works against you, right? Where it means that you're not going to get the most out of that trade because you're just not getting the most out of yourself. So yes, very frustrating, very challenging to sit on hands, very annoying to sit on hands, but it's got to be done.
जो